Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Color Authority. Today, I'm going to be interviewing Marianne Shillingford. She has over 30 years of experience in the interiors industry as a decorating and color expert. She's Creative Director of Dulux at Akzonobel, and she works closely with many creative disciplines from designers, architects, and professional decorators to global color expert and, of course, the Dulux Dog. She is a passionate expert and skilled communicator with experience in TV, radio, and journalism. Marianne is also the founder of the Color in Design Awards, which recognizes and rewards outstanding use of color in design by emerging creative talent. Good afternoon, Marianne. Welcome to the Color Authority. How are you today?
Well, I'm very happy. It's just been the most beautiful sunny day and everything's growing in the garden. And can't be happier, to be honest.
Yeah, so I'm very happy to have you and I'm excited to be talking to you. But as in all my podcasts, even now this third season, I've decided to continue to ask that very first question, which is, what is color to you? So, Marianne, what is it to you?
Color is, I'm sure everybody says color is everything, but color, I realized how important color was when I was very young. My dad, we grew up on a rose nursery. My dad bred roses for their color and their perfume. And he used to create a color catalog of all of his roses. And at the time, every year, when he used to do this, he used to be completely absorbed by matching color to petals and making sure that it looked right in print. And so that's sort of the importance of getting an experience of color, of communicating color to customers, and helping them unlock the potential of that in their gardens and on their walls. I got that from a very early age, and it seemed to be the only thing that I did. First interview I ever went to was for Courtauld, and I had to grade thousands of colors in the spectrum and just put them all as if they would appear on the spectrum. And I came out of it. It's brilliant. That was a brilliant thing to do. And the guy said, I've never seen anybody do it like that before. And I thought, well, actually, because I know this. And it's everything. It's ridiculous. When I see a color, because of my dad, I smell it. My mum made wine. She made wine out of rose petals, and it was all about the color of the rosé. And I can taste it. And so when we're naming colors or we're describing colors, it's about the way the color makes you feel, and not just how it looks as beautiful, but it's how it makes you feel. And there's a whole sensory thing. And honestly, I am nearly 60 years old, and every day I get up and I go, I am the luckiest woman on the planet because I get to do and work with something that I'm completely passionate about. I think I'm good at it. Not many people, you don't often, I'm all right at this. But I actually think I'm really good at this. It's a long answer to your question, but it kind of is everything.
Yeah. So that actually what you just said makes me very curious. You say that you can smell, and sometimes you think you can even taste a color. Are you a synesthete?
I don't know. I don't. With colour, most definitely, yes. Definitely. Yeah, I must be because no colour anybody ever shows me doesn't have an experience or a sensory, another sensory experience attached to it. And a lot of my work is describing the characteristics of a colour. So you have to understand how to, get into somebody's head, and whether that's a connection with food, flowers, or a smell, or a holiday, or sand, or some material. It's trying to explain that. And as soon as you start talking about those kind of things, you start to go, And quite a lot of our colours, I love food, quite a lot of our colours are food related, and they're very, sensory related, generally when I get to start naming them.
Reminds me of, I did a podcast with a cognitive neuroscience. And she indeed explained on people who are what it's like. She did not have synesthesia herself, but what obviously it is and how you connect it to color, to flavor, and a little bit to smells as well. And then I did a podcast with Julia Hamilton, who is an artist who is a synesthete, and she has a similar one to what Kandinsky would have. So it's very, I'm quite sure you have that as well. I think there's a lot of people that have it, and they're obviously not really, they don't know that they're having it. For them, it's live, and it sounds like for you, color from a very early age on was part of your life? Because my next question was going to be you being a true color ambassador. And oh my God, I have so many questions I want to ask you. But when I just think about what you just said, you knew from a very early age that you were going to be in color then. And that was because of your dad, or not?
Well, it was. I mean, I realized that color was not just a beautiful thing. It was commerce as well. So Dad, the color would put food on our table. The first time I ever earned money, it was painting. And I realized that because we were, my dad was self-employed and sort of earning money out of the thing you're good at and the thing was really important. It was really important to be able, because that was the secret to a happy life. You were doing something that you were good at and you were being paid for it. I mean, how wonderful is that? And paint, my dad painted, he taught me how to use a drill, how to paint, very practical, how to build things. And painting was really important. He was also used to paint and my mother used to paint. And so that becomes something that becomes part of what you do as well. Yeah, it is. It's a lifestyle choice. It is literally. If somebody had written what I was going to do, you would not believe it. And I'm doing exactly what I think I'm here to do. And I know it sounds silly because, I work in color and I work in paint and, I don't save lives, but I aim to make life a little bit better.
Yeah.
And people a bit happier, and use color because color is such a simple ingredient to everything. And yet it's something we use every day. It's the most powerful. We use it to help to keep us safe on the roads. We use it to choose the type of milk that's got less fat in or more fat in it. We're constantly using a language of colour every single day, and yet we don't realise the full potential power of it. And so hopefully when I die, on my gravestone, it will say, she gave it her best shot and she made the life a little bit more colourful.
Colour increases our wellness. And just like you said, it really is something that gives purpose in life. And in other words, it can have an important impact on our daily life beyond the red lights when obviously you should stop, or it's best that you stop. But Can you elaborate a little bit on this? You just mentioned a few things, but how do you, for example, personally use color in your daily life to enhance, let's say, your own wellness?
Well, I use color personally in my wardrobe. So when I get up in the morning, if I'm feeling a little bit sort of tired, or I know I've got a big job to do or a big job of communication to do, I will go and put on the brightest color I have in my wardrobe. I love orange and bright pinks, the color that really makes people, it makes people smile. Not necessarily, I might not feel exactly like that, but it helps me to turn the lights on. It helps me to feel confident. It draws people to you. It makes people smile. They don't think you're going to be scary. They think that you're going to be fun. And so it gives that actually really, really honestly gives me the confidence to do things. Now I'm wearing a lovely tealy blue tunic today because my boss is it. And I don't want to seem silly to my boss. I want to seem very grown up, very organized. And so I'll wear something that was bright and sort of a little bit sort of different kind of energy.
Yeah.
And I know that he would respond to this. He wouldn't notice me in it. I could probably get away with terrible things wearing something that was a little more restrained. And blue is a colour, or the teal colours are calm, they're like the sea. It helps me calm down. It helps me think in a slightly different way, so I can be less silly and I can be a little bit more grown up. So, and in my home, in different parts of my home, I'll have different pockets of colour that really give me a boost when I need a boost, and then really calm me down when I need to calm down, because I am a very bouncy person. If you've ever heard of Tigger, the tiger, that's kind of like me. And it's not good to be jumping up and down all the time. So I have parts of my home. There's a beautiful, really, really deep blue wall here, and that's in my bedroom, and that just helps me switch off. Yeah. So colour is it's an amazing tool. If you're feeling like you need some more confidence, and use a colour, wear a colour that has more confidence than you have, and it will give you the energy you need to get you through something. And I truly believe that. I absolutely, truly believe that.
That's indeed something that, I've noticed. I think a lot of people have been experiencing with color, and how they wear in color, also how people are reacting to you. Mm-hmm. Indeed, just like I said, you, funnily enough, you just mentioned your boss. You've been at Dulux for many years. What has enabled this, let's say, happy marriage?
I looked at some old videos the other day, and it was videos of, I used to run my own business. So I ran a decorating business. I used to paint fairground rides when I was younger, and that led on to interior design, because I've got children. It's not easy to paint a fairground outside when you've got kids. So went more to the interiors. And what I was doing with paint was quite interesting at the time. And Dulux had created a fantastic material, a product that was a water-based, solvent-free version of something that I was using, a solvent-based. And I made the switch and started to do, it was the most fantastic, it's called Scumble Glazed product. And somebody from Dulux saw me do this, with my business, with this product, and asked me to do a video. And that was when I was pregnant with my first child, Jack, who's now 31. So that was a kind of match made in heaven, a little seed sown. And then for many years afterwards, I demonstrated the products, used them in my own business, a little bit of television, and then Dulux sort of sponsored that. So Dulux has always been there. Oh, let me tell you a story. You like this. My uncle, the decorator, when I was 18, I wanted to leave home and I was wanting to start my own business. And I went to my uncle because I wanted to decorate it. I wanted to paint and do murals. And that's what I wanted to earn my money at. And I said, give me some great advice, Uncle John. And Uncle John picked up a tin of Dulux. He said, don't ever use anything but this. Because he said, if you buy cheap paint, you'll be doing twice as long. He said, buy the best, always buy the best, and it'll never let you down. And those seeds from when you're young stick in there. And I've always used the best, and it's brilliant paint. So and then here I am now, and I'm very proud of that. It was a long time ago, 31 years ago.
Well, I think you should. It takes a great, let's say, give and take, on both ends. I mean, you're obviously doing very well. You're promoting the brand, and they're getting something great out of it. So I do think that when it's possible, it's only wonderful when this happens. Now that I'm just talking to you, and also we've had obviously an earlier conversation, you told me that color also is pure joy. And I think we can both agree on that, indeed. Yeah. But when I speak to you as well, and I think this is regardless of the sun shining today in the UK, which I know is not the most sunny place in the continent, it's also possibly part of you just radiate, joy, and it's probably part of your personality. But is it also indeed, as you say, I'm doing something that I love? It's something that each and every day I get to work with color.
Yeah, absolutely. I say to my children, all of my children are self-employed, and I say to my children that if you have a job and you get up in the morning and you feel a bit sick, that's a job, or you're just like, that's a job. Because if you throw up, pack the job, and it's not good for you. But if you go to work and you have a good day and you enjoy it, that's nirvana. That's if your work and your life are just interlinked, and your hobby is what you do. I mean, I paint. That's what I do. I use our product. I paint. Go and decorate other people's houses. This weekend I was painting my mother's house. That makes me the luckiest person, because I love the job, and the job is just part of who I am, what my life is. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of what other thing would be great. If I was in cakes or wine, maybe, I think there could be another niche. But
I'm going to be asking about you what's next for you. So who knows what's going to be next for you, after this very big adventure that seems to be continuing over these couple of years, indeed. But Interesting that you said you were just decorating other people's houses. You were decorating, friends and family's houses. Mm-hmm. When you do develop colors for decoration, they need to have different purposes, right? Depending on the room that you're working in. But also at the same time, you want to do, and you work also with color trends. How do they play together? So let's say the color psychology, what is, let's say, needed for somebody, each and every person is different, but what is needed for that client of yours? But how do you tweak that with color trends?
I think one of the very interesting things about color trends is, up until a few years ago, we'd had a global we do a global trend forecasting process called Color Futures. And up until a few years ago, not a few years, probably about 6 or 7 years ago, we have a collection of amazing experts, independent experts, that come together and are invited together to talk about design, the state of the world, what's important to us, what's the new big thing, what's the next new big thing. And a few years ago, the main focus of the conversation was about people, was about what we wanted as human beings, what made us feel good, what we were worried about, what we thought was luxury. And luxury wasn't stuff. Luxury wasn't the watch or the car or the iPhone. Luxury was time. Luxury was an experience. Luxury was being with friends and family. Luxury was nature. And our trend forecasting became more and more accurate and organic and intuitive. It follows what human beings really want rather than following what's on the catwalk. That's always going to play a part in things. I look at my wardrobe and some of the things that I found years ago and I think, well, how could I ever wear that? So we're always going to be influenced by fashion, but more so than ever, we're influenced by the way that we feel and the way that we feel we occupy this space, the things that we find important. And over the last few years, we've noticed this return to the familiar, return to nature, return to the things that are precious, transient, super precious, but not don't cost you anything. And that forecasting has become more, it's so much more fundamental, and lasting, and enduring. And you'll get these colours popping up, within suddenly you'll see it in the shops. You go, oh my God, everybody's got pink, everybody's doing. And these colours, they come, they build, and they stay. If they're good colours, they stay, and then they go away and they come back again, like good fashion. But then there's this really solid bedrock of, at the moment, it's the colours of nature, the plants, the colours that make us feel good when we're feeling anxious. And it's no surprise. It's not rocket science. It's kind of, it makes perfect sense. And also this, you talk about joy, these flashes of joy that we need in our life. We're in the spring. I look out of my window and I can see a bush in bloom and see some flowers, and they're the flashes of joy. And I think that in colour can give us that. And if you get the balance right in your home, you can have the flashes rather than being overwhelmed by it or feel like you're buying into a trend. I don't like the word trend. It's a tool, a wonderful tool. You create a palette of colours that captures the mood of the moment perfectly, and you give it to your customer. You say, here, we've done the research. We think this is really important. We think this, and people will take it, and they either take it, love it, or they leave it. And if they leave it, you've got it wrong. And we haven't got it wrong. I don't think we've got it wrong, because we're following what people want and what they need right now. And the world is, we need a lot from the world. We need to give a lot back, but we need a lot from the world. We are all in an anxious place, and it's not over yet. And so we need it more than ever. These simple salves for the human condition, and I think colour is one of them, one of many, but I think it's one of them.
Yeah. When as I just said earlier in the introduction, that I'm going to be teaching color trend forecasting this week to let's say, very young professionals. Yeah. And I know they're going to think that they're just going to be doing color trends. And indeed, You're not the first person that doesn't agree to the word trend anymore. I tend to use the word directions or movements or societal movements. But they haven't understood yet that what I'm going to be teaching them is how to look at people and how to look at society. And I think they're going to be confused the first module, because they were like, wasn't this about color trends? But that's what I'll teach them, the societal part of it, and then how you translate it. So it's going to be a curious exercise. I have this feeling. Do you think there is any particular colors, just generally, that you feel new entries are really changing how we are shaping this new future that we're now entering post-pandemic, midst of European war?
Yeah, I would have said a few years ago, green was not a favourite colour of people. People didn't green was an unlucky colour for cars, because a green car blended in with the environment. But green was never a colour that we would have really embraced in our environment, in our homes. And suddenly green is everywhere. And deep blues as well. That's another colour that you would see it in a magazine and you would say, yes, that L decoration, definitely, yes, looks lovely there. I wouldn't have it in my living room. And then suddenly one of our best selling colours, and our core range is a colour called Sapphire Salute. It's the most beautiful, rich, deep, gorgeous blue. And it's our best selling colour. And then pink came out of the blue. Pink, this beautiful colour that you pink, the word pink itself is just such a lovely word. And then suddenly everybody is using pink in all of its, not the sweet candy pink, but soft petal pinks, and suddenly that's there. And then there's deep blues, and then emerald green comes through the door, and you're going, and I don't think it's more than a trend. I think it's something that so the deep blues. If you put deep blues and deep greens in a room and you're really stressed and you can't sleep, it really helps you to relax and unwind. If you surround yourself with the softest pink, you can't help but have a giggle. And everything looks good and everything looks gently, happy, not joyful, loud and shouty, but just there's something. And these colours have crept up. And there are some really interesting colour. I mean, when I go out to the design shows, I'm starting to see colours that are transient. They change when they get bleached by the sun. They grow. They change with heat. And I think that's a lovely response to, often when colours change in different lights, you think, oh, it's a fault with the colour. I love that. I love that. My hair looks different in the sunshine. My clothes look different in the sun. I love it that at night, you look different, you feel different, and the colours respond differently at different times of the day. And I love that. I think it's just things not being fixed is interesting. I mean, suddenly saw there was a big article about yellow, about this amazing yellow, I can't remember what the restaurant was called, and they repainted the whole of the interior of the restaurant now in this kind of bright, incredible yellow. Fantastic if you want to go and have this amazing shot of energy, but that suddenly popped up everywhere and everybody's talking about yellow. And I think those come and go, but there's something about what do we need in that yellow? What is it that's making us so happy? Because we just need, yellow is the colour of daffodils, colour of spring, colour of baby chicks, sunshine, energy, optimism. We need that. They make the news because it's something that we need.
I think indeed it's something that we definitely need. I was walking by the streets of Milan just this early morning and I saw that, I mean, obviously it's mainly fashion, but pink, but also very bright fuchsia. Mm-hmm. And indeed the softer yellows, they're literally everywhere. Now, I'm not too sure about the brighter pink, if that's going to stay for longer. Mm-hmm. But when we talk about, let's say, colors that will have a longer life expectancy, do you believe that those are indeed those darker blues and those, let's say, natural greens? Or do you think that longevity is a different color?
Longevity is usually a sort of more pared down version of what you're seeing on the catwalk. So because in paint on our walls, you're looking at colors that have to have for your customer a sort of 3 to 5 year cycle. Mm-hmm. So you need to create colors that they're going to live with and love for a long period of time. You wouldn't wear the same dress or the same suit or the same trousers or shoes for every day of 3 years, would you? Because so you have to choose colors that capture something, but maybe just turn it down a little bit. And so, yes, I think blues and greens are here to stay. I think that all of those organic colours and natural materials are going to be, they definitely get bigger and bigger and bigger. But I think you'll have these, when it comes to pinks and the yellows, in restaurants and commercial settings, you can turn the volume up because people are in there for just a brief period of time. They get the shot and then they go. In our homes, we add a little grey. We just mute it down, take the energy, just a little bit of the energy, and then make it easier to live with for a long period of time. So we're doing the same kind of thing, but we're maybe just taking the essence of something rather than the full on experience of something that you've just seen in Milan in a fashion.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So color forecasting, we just mentioned it. It's a very interesting topic. You said that in the last couple of years with Color Future, you've changed a little bit the methodology. So you've been more focusing on people instead of maybe what's on the fashion. Do you think trend forecasting is changing?
Well, I think so. Actually, we didn't change the methodology. Our experts brought something different to the table. One of the most powerful things we have, experts from all over the world, from fashion, design, architecture, and they come together and influence. They come together and they chat about stuff. And it was last year, a guy called Jim Biddulph, most amazing man, just been through to hell and back. Not just the pandemic, but he actually had cancer. Only a man in his early 30s had it. And he's the most wonderful materials expert. He shared with us, because people have to put a presentation together that sort of says, what's happening in our country, in our region. Yeah. And he put a presentation together, and it was his reflection his reflection of the town he was in and what he could actually go and see. And he showed a picture of a wall, and somebody had painted on the wall, "We are golden." And it was written in gold. And he said, when I saw this, everything was going to hell. We were in a pandemic, I'm recovering from cancer, and I read "We are golden" on a wall. And I thought, yeah, we are golden. And it gave him a huge lift. And honestly, the whole panel was crying, because it's kind of what we all wanted to hear. We wanted to hear an uplifting story. We wanted to see it connected with the color. We wanted somebody to tell us something good.
Well, gold is part of the yellow color family. So
yeah. We are golden. You are golden. And it was this lovely, simple message that, you are golden. You're precious. As a human being. And it was a very simple thing. And the conversations are very, about so when we're talking about what's happening around the world, it is not just about the catwalk and the things that we see, or something coming through in color, or what our competitors are doing. Very, very much about the way we're responding to the things that are happening around us, and where we retreat to and find our solace. Yeah, it was lovely. I'm not doing the story justice, but it was everybody else had presented this amazing, this is happening here and this is happening here. And then Jim came on and he did this thing and he talked about, and everybody in the room was we are golden.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's the simplicity, right? And it is the empathy, which it's been a word that's been coming back in many of my conversations. Empathy.
Yes.
It is the future society, indeed. Time and freedom, obviously, is one of the most important ones.
Yeah, and there's this sense of well-being, because up until we've all been through the most horrendous time. We were all going into tumultuous times. Well-being was a spa day. Doing your nails, maybe sort of doing a bit of yoga, or eating healthily. And well-being is it's the whole package. It's feeling, in your mind. You've got to get your mind in the right place, and you have to create the environment in which you feel good. And I think that's what we're tapping into now. Creating spaces in which there's an outcome, something happens, something positive happens, encourages, and I think color is part of that.
Yeah, I think indeed the future of color is into more and more into how we truly can feel better.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And there's a sensory element to it now. One of our products that we launched last year, a product called Heritage, the most beautiful palette of 112 colors from the best of the past, present and future. Colors are in there as well. So it's just a beautifully curated palette. Colors are lovely, but the feel, the sensory texture. So when you run your hand across the surface, it feels like velvet. It's like skin. It's just beautifully soft. So it's added another dimension to an experience of a space. So you choose fabrics, or you choose something because you can touch them. Now you can touch the walls as well. So there are other things that we're doing that create a different experience.
And they are exciting. Yeah, it's exciting to look beyond what is just you, right? But also what is the whole material and the finishing part of that. You are also founder of the Color in Design Award that you created to indeed recognize and reward innovative use of color in design by new designers in the UK. An amazing thing. Congratulations to that. But it's very, again, and this is how we always tend to get back to the same conversation, perhaps. But the reason why you created this and why you founded the awards has a rather sentimental and beautiful story, which I think we talked a little bit about it in the beginning. But would you like sharing that with us?
Yeah, I am. Anybody who knows me, I'm a soppy old thing. And I do think about, as you get older, you think about, what's the sum total of your life? Why are you here? What are you here to do? What are you going to leave behind? And leave behind something positive. When my dad died, he left me some money, and Edward and I have worked a lot. If this money was lovely, could have bought a nice car, could have built a little garden room or something. And I thought, well, actually, I'm going to do something. I think Dad would like this. I would love to do this. And I meet a lot of young people, creative young people, who have gone through years and years of study, building up huge amounts of debt, and they haven't really achieved their full potential because they've gone out there in the big wide world with loads of talent, but no real help. And I thought, well, if I focus an award, more than one award, or awards on helping develop talent within colour and unlocking its potential within a new generation, and also taking that very simple ingredient, because it is a very simple ingredient, but saying, try rewarding and recognising designers who are using colour to make a positive impact on people's lives. And I started it as a thing a few years ago. I didn't know whether it would take off, and it has. It's just one of those things. So Dad, hopefully smiling somewhere, it makes me very happy, and it's helping students to understand the power of colour in design a little bit more. There's some amazing judges who take part every year. They give their time for free, which is extraordinary. They give their wisdom and their support and their help to the students who get through. I do lots of tours. In fact, next week I'm off to Nottingham University to do a colour workshop, just to encourage people to think about colour in a slightly different way, as a powerful material that almost doesn't cost you anything. You change the outcome of what you're designing. Yeah, it's been going for, I think this is about the 7th year now. Quite a lot of awards. There are 2 main ones that we launch new designers in June, and then we have awards throughout the year. But it's a lovely thing. It's a lovely. There's another thing that might be on my gravestone, but it is a joyful thing. Yeah.
Well, I'm rather sure that your dad is smiling right now. Indeed, I'm very sure. I mean, I think it's a beautiful way to think of him, obviously, and to give him all the credit for where you in the end also ended up in life. Now, one of the other reasons that you also founded the Design Awards is because you think color is often overlooked.
Oh yeah. Can
you elaborate on that, but also how you think you're helping people to really understand why color is so important in design?
Yeah. I mean, if you create a beautiful product and you get the colour wrong, because you've either misread the trend or the mood of the moment or something, and you get the colour wrong, nobody ever looks at that product. So if the colour's clever, or even if you're championing the material, the raw material, the natural colour of the material, it's really, really important. And I think we see colour, when we talk about colour, we think it's something that's a surface coating. It's just a decoration. And it's so much more than a decoration. We're only just beginning to understand the power of colour to initiate a behavior or response. We're only just understanding the power of colour to change your mood, to uplift you, to help you calm down. We're only just scratching the surface of all of that. And so it's a hugely powerful tool in design. And people can also create their own distinctive voice and look and style using a palette of colours. It doesn't have to be colourful for colourful's sake. So it's hugely important. And understanding how it's made, creating your own, having your own sort of house style. I mean, most of the most successful designers I know, if you gave me a palette of colours from their designs, I'd tell you exactly who they are. Would know it straight away, because it's so distinctive. It's like handwriting. And when you teach young people in design how important that is, I think everything else becomes a lot easier. When we're doing colour workshops, we say, Katrina, pare down a palette of 5 colours and try and pare it down to 3 if you can, but 5 colours, and then start to work with how much of this colour, so in proportion, how are you going to use these colours? And lots of people come with colourful things, but it means nothing. It's confusing. But if you think about it right at the beginning of the design process, it unlocks so much potential. I could go on for hours about this, but it's more than skin deep. It's more than skin deep.
It's interesting what you just said, that you could look at the colors of an artist and they won't tell you who this artist is, and that you would know who it is, because branding, and I'm not talking about the big branding for large beverage brands, which we can all imagine who they are. But it's interesting that if you really nail color, when you're doing as a designer, is that it is such a powerful tool by whom you can be recognized.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a signature. It can be a signature range, and it doesn't have to be complicated. I mean, if you look at Abigail Ahern, she owns the dark, but then you put this palette of colors together and you just go, that's Abigail Ahern. I can see that. Kit Miles, another designer who uses most vibrant blues and beautiful jewel colors. I know exactly who that is. Tom Dixon, just any designer, you could just put little palette of colors again. You go, oh yeah, and you'd know who they are, and that is powerful. That's really, and it's valuable. It's really valuable.
You talked also in the Color Design Awards. You talk about color innovation. What is color innovation to you?
Well,
and also when you look at color innovation, what do the judges look like when they're, when they have to judge about what really is color innovation?
Well, color innovation could be using colored light. Our winner, one of our winners last year, a girl called Phoebe Lewis, and she created a range of colored inks using seaweed. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just creating inks from seaweed that was interesting to us. It was the fact that she was wanting to create not just new colors or colors, even colors like black. It was the idea that you grow this color, you create a whole ecosystem. People who have been relying on the sea for their income and can no longer fish, coastal communities could start growing seaweed for ink. If you think about the black ink or ink on anything, anything we have that's got ink on it, it's petrochemical. So that's damaging the environment. If you could grow ink, if in that growing environment of growing ink, you're helping revive a coastal community, but you're also creating a nursery bed for marine animals for crabs and fish to grow their babies. And it was just that's innovative, because it's not just about creating a sustainable ink to replace a petrochemical ink that we use all the time. It was doing the whole thing about the environmental impact that would have a positive environmental impact, and then a positive impact on the human beings that were growing it and harvesting it. That is spectacular. Another winner.
And it was beautiful, I can imagine.
Oh, just beautiful. I mean, the most exciting thing that will probably come out of it is a creation of sustainable black ink, because it's the ink that we use all the time. So the colors were beautiful, but it was her approach. It was what she wanted to do, and she'd actually proved it. So she was this incredible young woman who was, had the brain of a scientist, because she was doing marine biology, but also this creative thought process because creativity that got her to think about the whole ecosystem of her color. There's another girl who used colored light to help. This is beautiful, to help people who are a bit lonely communicate with each other. So you can text your mates, you can text your friends, you can send them a video on YouTube. But what if you sent them a series of colored lights that was just created by you, and you had a little device by your bed, and then this little series of colored lights would come from your friend. And it was just beautiful. It was such a beautiful thing. Yes. So, and using colour for a child with something wrong with them, a prosthetic limb, or having to wear a device, using colour to make that more engaging and fun and appealing, using colour and materials together to add another dimension to something, making something negative into something positive. Is that approach, is innovative thinking, where you're using colour beyond decoration, that actually positively affects the way that we respond to it and use it and want to use it. And that makes it successful.
So I'm definitely sending this. I always send these conversations to all my friends, obviously, but it's a funny anecdote, actually, that I'm surrounded by architects, designers and friends. And, we have a very close girlfriend group, and we're all architects and designers. And maybe I'm the only one that really only does color. The rest is more, interior design and workplace architects. And then one is a marine biologist. And I think sometimes she feels a bit lonely in the conversations. So I'm definitely going to send this one to her. And I think she's going to enjoy it very much.
Yes, I'll send you Phoebe's which I bet Phoebe would love to talk to her. Yeah.
I think also what you're doing, and I know this is not the reason why you're doing it, but working with young talents, working with the Color Design Awards, it inspires you as well as in your profession, in your daily life. How do you translate that into your work and your daily job?
Well, working with young people, I've got 3 children that constantly challenge me and bring me new ideas of the world that I've lived in. And it keeps me thinking fresh. But meeting new designers, there's a symbiotic relationship. They will tell me something about the world, how they're living in the world and how they're responding to it, what they find is really important. And I will use that in my work when you're creating colours or products, or you're working with, groups. We work in a marketing department, and most people are not middle-aged, but they're not out there in the world. They're not struggling. They're not looking at the world and going, we've got to change this. It's our, they're thinking in a slightly different way. You go and work with young designers and they will challenge you to the max, and they'll tell you what's important to them. And if you don't know what's important to the next generation, then you don't have a product for the next generation. You don't have any relevance for the next generation. And so, we always strive to not just have something to say. Everybody's got something to say. We all strive to be relevant and to be useful. There'd be nothing worse than if whatever I was doing wasn't useful or interesting or engaging for the next generation. I mean, that would be dreadful. And I don't want to stop learning and stop being challenged. And then there is something wonderful. You will always learn and you will always be challenged by the next generation. And that's great, because that's their world. It's not my world. I messed it up for them. I need to help them sort it out.
Yeah, they're paying the bill directly.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it makes me feel so guilty, but we all need.
We're not old enough to feel guilty, do we? We're not old enough.
Well, I'm getting there. But indeed, it is indeed funny that you said. I always say a day that you haven't learned is a day that you haven't lived, really. And I think it's beautiful to work with younger students, with young designers, but just generally being open to so many other people also from other industries as well to learn. That's something that indeed I try to do also through the podcast, because it's every day there's something that you can learn. What do young designers need to do to be part of the awards?
Well, at the moment, the 2 awards that are coming up, if you are in a university or college that is taking part in New Designers, which is the huge design show at the Islington Design Centre, then you can, if they're going, you can just contact me, find out a little bit about the awards, and then ask us to come and see you on your stand. So please, if anybody's listening to this and they're going to New Designers, they're a young designer, ask us to come and see us. If you want to share your work with us, send it to us at the website, or send it to me, info@colouranddesignaward.org. Just send us an email. Contact me, Marianne@shillingfords.co.uk. Just send me your work and we'll put it in front of the judges. So if you put colouranddesignaward.org you shall find it in there. But I'll
publish it as well when the podcast comes out. I'll publish it as well.
Some more details. But we want to see. I mean, everything from ceramics. You're doing digital design, whether you're doing fashion, or it doesn't matter what you're doing. I mean, Phoebe Lewis is doing stuff with seaweed. We want to see everything where you're using colour in an innovative way that has a positive impact on the world and people that live in it, all of us.
So the next ones, I think you just mentioned, are in June this year, right?
Yeah, June and July. So New Designers is coming up in June and July. So if there are people watching this who know people who are going to New Designers, but there are also awards that will happen throughout the year. So we'll collect together people's work. We'll get a panel of judges together in September, and we'll do judging for people who fall out of the New Designers camp. But generally, it's people who are recently graduated. They're just sort of starting out. If you're an established business, that you're already there, you don't need our help. We'd love to see your work. But if you're just starting out, it's people who are kind of like a little bit lost, starting out, but have a fantastic idea. That's what we want to see.
Okay. What do you think we're going to be seeing then for the next awards? What would you think would as novelty in colour use?
Gosh, I don't know. I'm always blown away. I'm blown away by how people use light, engaging, light where the colour is transient or the colour changes according to your mood. I love it when people create new colours out of something that's unusual. Sustainable is always about whatever we do has to have an element of sustainability in it. And recycling, if there's a new source of recycling or a new source that we haven't really thought of, in nature nothing gets wasted. So new ways of creating colour. And maybe making those recycled materials into something more luxurious rather than everyday and throwaway. Honestly, Judith, we never know what we're going to.
But that's exciting.
Yeah, when we had an illustrator winning. She's an amazing illustrator who you just don't know.
Do you think the pandemic has helped not helped, let's say, has it make creativity more of a, let's say, a bigger topic? Do you think there's more emerging talent right now because of the pandemic? Because in the beginning, everybody said because people were at home and they needed to get creative because they were just going out of their minds. Is that something you're still seeing right now?
In terms of students or young people, where the first lockdown was awful. I just think everybody was so lost. I mean, you couldn't get into your college or university workshops. You could not get to see a technician. So everything you had to do at home. And I think there was this huge sense of apathy and just a hopelessness. I think everybody was holding their breath. Now that was the first year, because we didn't, on that first year for the colour and designer, while we were in lockdown, it was okay, but we didn't see anything new or vibrant. Now the second year, last year, it was unbelievable. It was almost as if people had thought, yeah, this is it. This, unless we grab the world and make it our own and get resourceful, start getting angry, using the energy of being pent up and to do something extraordinary, change the world. And then suddenly we started to see last year was the most extraordinary year of creativity. And I expect the same this year, because I think a younger generation now realizes that the world is in their hands and they're grabbing it with both hands and doing really radical things. Yeah, and I think it's going to be really exciting. First year, maybe for us as people who were trapped at home but had a job, we were painting and everything and getting creative. For young people, it must have been awful. Can you imagine? You're thinking, oh, no freshers week, no friends, no nothing. And so I think all of that creativity just went inside. But last year, second year,
came out.
Yeah, really came out. I just think people thought, well, if this is it, let's make the most of it. And there was something that happened. I don't know what happened, but something definitely happened. Yeah.
What advice would you give to people who are listening when they're starting out with design and color? What color advice would you give them?
Well, I'd give them more, not so much color advice, but there's a bit of life advice. So when we look at our lives ahead of us and we think, we're always told, oh, what do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And we don't really know, because my life has taken an amazing series of paths, and I decided what to do when I got to that road and thought, yeah, I think this is what I want to do. So what I've always done is I've always wanted to feed my children and to put a roof on my head doing the thing I love. And if you do that, then you have to have at least a goal. You have to spot somebody who's got a job similar to that. And what you have to do is shuffle towards it. So just move towards every single day, do something that gets you a little closer to where you want to be. You don't have to make big strides. You don't have to, it's not all about exams and learning or having loads of money or travel, or it's about stepping one step. I mean, I've shuffled all of my life, and I've always shuffled in the direction I want to go in. And don't let those big goals overwhelm you, because I think people think that things are unattainable, and they're not. But you do have to be active. You do have to. You can't just wish. Me and my husband used to have this thing about, we used to have a load of friends at college, and me and my husband got together when we were very young. And the thing that attracted us to each other, we will both do, is we'd go, right, well, it's snowing, let's go and make a sledge. And we would go and make a sledge. That's what we would do. And then everybody else in the pub or the bar would be going, oh, yeah, it's snowing. Let's go and let's get some sledges. And me and Ted would be in the workshop making a sledge. And it was that sort of, you've got to be active. Yeah. So if we're going to say something, do it. Just do it. Even if you
keep moving, right? Don't sit still and wait for inspiration.
No, nothing. Yeah. It's like a job, it's like, looking for a life partner, finding a new dog, finding something nice to eat for the weekend. It all involves an active. You don't just, it doesn't come to you. It has to be active.
You're not going to come knocking on your door. No.
No.
What is next for you, Marianne?
I would love to, is it part of this legacy of doing something? Do you know what I'd love to do? I'd love to do a bit of telly. I want to do a bit of telly. I want to show people the power of colour and the way it transforms things. I love, when you see these makeover shows, I think, I'd love to take an element of this and kind of like show what colour really does in this space, not just the stuff or how it's, but just I want to know, meet a family or, just not, but I want to do a bit of telly or something like that. That would be quite good fun. I don't know whether there's a wonderful program. It's a Great British Bake Off, and Mary Berry, who was in her 80s, suddenly became a star. So I'm thinking, I'm only I'm about to be 60, I've got 20 years left. to become a star of colour. I'm being silly, but I think that would be quite fun. I'd like it a bit of an adventure, and the Colour and Design Awards. I hope to keep going with that. Yeah, and I love my job, but I can see there's a little part of me that thinks I think somebody younger needs this, because I think the world needs young heads and young minds, and if I can help that would be great.
Yeah, that's what you're doing with the awards, right? You're nurturing.
Yeah. I want to reassure that life's tough. Yeah, I know that, but also there are people out there. The design community and the creative community are the kindest, most generous-hearted, wonderful spirits. I have never ever found anything but kindness. When I came to London, just huge generosity and kindness. And all of the judges, like I say, they give their time for free. If you couldn't afford these guys, if they just say, yeah, that's a good idea, we'll get involved in this. And I am always blown away by, you ask some advice from somebody who has reached the top of their tree and they cannot wait to help you, they fall over themselves to help you. And this is what I've always found. And I think there's something in unlocking that potential, putting young people together with people who've been there and done that. And just a little bit of advice, a nice word here helps you on the path, stops you from worrying about stuff too much, or understanding that worrying is okay, because we all do it.
Well, I want to thank you for helping me on my journey within the Colour Authority, my new business that I started a year ago, and I started a podcast May a year ago, and now we're on the 19th of April. So it's been a journey, but I want to thank you for being part of the Colour Authority podcast, and I loved talking to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, great pleasure.
So this was yet another exciting episode on the Colour Authority. Thank you everyone for listening. If you're listening on Spotify, please rate the show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review the show. Send us your feedback. We will be very thankful for that. Now, in the next episode, I'm going to be talking with Bruno Pizzalis, a crypto art expert. We're going to be talking about color in crypto art, but of course, we're also going to be talking about the metaverse, and we're going to be debunking some myth here. So stay tuned for this episode coming out in 2 weeks, and I wish you a very colorful rest of your day.